So, yeah, indeed, I just need to think about organizing my ideas, because I have right now several fields of research. When I started my academic career, I was mostly interested in learning to read and dyslexia, and I was interested into very basic component of reading acquisition, meaning decoding skills. With this simple view of reading. I don't know if you're familiar with. Everyone is familiar with. I was like,
we work with Calulu.
So and we try to analyze how it works with dyslexia. I must say that then I moved in two other lines of research. The first one is I contribute a lot, and then I moved to another one, but I have to say some words about it, because I think that my name has been solicited to that field about morphology. I don't know if you are familiar with morphology. Yes, morphology derivation is a process of language that allow creation of new words. For example, if I say, okay, the runner is the man who runs. So it's really important for both vocabulary, because you don't need to learn each word one by one. It's easier for me to give an example in French, but you will understand. For example, the name of trees in French all end with the suffix "ye."
Mm-hmm.
For example, pomme in France is apple, and if you need to for the name of the tree, which has apple, is a pommier, pomme, ye. And then you don't have to learn all the words, all the names of trees, because you just have to add ye to the name of fruit. So very, very economic system for vocabulary growth, and also a very important system for reading. Why? Because children, when they read, especially in first grades, they have to decode a lot of words they never read before, of course, but also they never heard before sometimes. The growing of vocabulary and reading is a reciprocal relation. And we have to understand how kids can catch some information while reading to understand the sentence and the text, of course, but also to improve vocabulary. Because once kids start learning to read, a lot of new words are acquired through reading. So regarding these aspects, of course, there are a lot of factors that contribute to new learning, but morphology can play a specific role. And I was so interested in how kids could process morphology, especially when they do not know the word before, which is the case of a lot of derived words indeed. A lot of derived words are less familiar than base words, and children can read them and meet them for the first time while reading. So I was interested into how this aspect of language can be processed by young readers. And then I conduct some experiments using experimental methods from the expert readers. I suppose you are familiar with the priming, for example, yes. Priming, and very fast priming. And so we conducted some experimental priming studies with morphology, just in order to to examine if children were able to very, very fast decompose complex words in order to process the base, the root, and the suffix. And indeed, we found that this mechanism was worked really early, as soon as grade 3. We didn't try earlier. It's very difficult. Gets that as soon as grade 3, kids are able to automatically decompose derived words into a base and a suffix, meaning that even though they don't know the word or they see the word for the first time, you can see, if we have to imagine a young child who tries to read, most of words have never been read before, and they have to do something with them, and they don't have to spend so much time because they spend so much time trying to decode letter by letter. It slows dramatically, slows down the reading dramatically, and then they just can't understand. So the issue of morphology was something about fluency in reading, and we found that okay, the kids were able to decompose the words very quickly, and it could be helpful to. It was helpful to read sentences and understand texts. And then regarding dyslexia, we also had a question, because we all know that dyslexia, readers with dyslexia, they can't decode words in an automatic way, so they have to decode, and it's a slow process and effortful and results consuming, and morphemes to a certain extent bears also a meaning, not also sounds like letters, letter sounds, but morphemes are both sounds and meaning. And the readers with dyslexia, they rely a lot of meaning because they are not so, they do not struggle with meaning, they struggle with sounds of language, with letters, with decoding, but they do not struggle with meaning. So we had this, we tried, it was a bit risky, but we tried to have this kind of priming with more advanced dyslexic. They were in grade 7 or 8, because we needed them to be more to read a bit, not to decode a lot of damage. And when we study the priming effect, we were interested in several priming conditions. I don't know how does it work in Portuguese, but in French and in English as well, we can have genuine derived word, for example, runner, run. Of course, the runner is who is running, so it works. But we also have fake, let's say corner, corn. No, it's not, there is no connection, no meaning relationship, so only a surface connection. And what is interesting is that in adults, but in kids, in young readers, it was found, we found too, this priming between fake, false derived forms and pseudo-derived, let's say. And we found that children, as soon as grade 3, they were able to decompose whatever the relationship, meaning that the decomposition was really based on formal aspects, no meaning. So,
and third grade is 8 years old, around 8.
Yeah. And so we were wondering about with dyslexia, because when I conducted before some studies with dyslexic children, and I found that they were comfortable with this dimension of language. When let's say when I assessed on a purely oral way, how would you say a person who runs, a runner? How is there any relationship between runner and run? Yes. Is there any relationship between corner and con? No. So the dyslexic children, they were very good with morphology, what we are calling morphological awareness, meaning that they are very comfortable manipulating this kind of unit. Mm-hmm. And then I was wondering, okay, but can they do something with that skill while they do read? And I tried to have this priming condition, and what we found, it was with my first PhD student many years ago, Pauline Kemar, and they had strong priming only when it was genuinely derived from, only for runner. No priming for corner. So very interesting, because it means that the connection between words were strongly dependent on meaning relationship. There was in their mind there's no connection between words which are related on a formal base only. So there was no priming, corner in the dyslexic group, only but a strong priming for ran. So it was, I think, an interesting result, because it means that something is very specific in the way they do read, even at a relatively advanced level, because they were dyslexic from grade 8 or 7 or 8. We could not conduct such an experiment, of course, with grade 3 or 4, much too difficult. Yeah.
But there was priming in the non-dyslexic group with the corner.
Yeah.
There was priming in either condition, but only in the dyslexic, only in the.
Yeah. Oh. What is interesting is that we have manipulated the prime duration. When the prime was really short, let's say 50 milliseconds, which is completely unconscious mechanism. Mm-hmm. When it's very, very short, priming works for both dyslexics and control readers for the run condition. And for only the control groups, it works also for corner. But if the prime duration is longer, let's say 200 milliseconds, then there is no priming anymore, even in the control group, for sure. Of course, in 20 milliseconds, you have time to have some activation of meaning, and then this priming does not work anymore. So what we find is at a very, very early decomposition time. When you have more time to decompose, only meaning is really important. But very briefly, meaning is not really relevant. Mm-hmm. But what was the primer visual? Yeah, visual. Because we try to have a spoken word, but to have massive priming, it's just a nightmare. Technical reasons, just a nightmare. We try to with noise or something. So this was encouraging to consider that maybe we could have some training on morphology, visual morphology for dyslexics. Here it's an unpublished result because it's not so easy to publish negative results. But I must say, to be honest, that we have trained dyslexic, they were in read text with spoken and written morphology. And the result there was a result, but not in reading. the dyslexic, there was a result in that sense that teachers in the classes, they said, well, the dyslexic, they want to contribute, to participate much, much more. They are more confident in, they were, it was better for them. But when I had my reading test, I could see no difference. It was a bit, yeah, it was pity, but the teachers, they want to continue with that training, because it helps dyslexics to be more comfortable with language. They understood the mechanism perfectly well. And some teachers told me that the kids at home, then they went to their parents and said, hey, I can explain you how words are made up. You can have a suffix and a base, and you can have a lot of words. So they become much, much more confident. And it's not cognitive psychology. Well, it's not really reading processes. And it was a bit hard to explain that, yeah, it worked, but for behavior, for self-confidence, for being involved, engaged in reading activities, but not on reading tasks. So a mixed results. At the end, it's better to be self-committed, to have a more emotional, something more. It's really important, I agree, but it's really difficult to improve reading skills in dyslexic parts. Really, really difficult. So we could. Okay.
So the priming is really interesting that they can use the priming, at least, when there is some congruence between the priming and the morphology of the word. And so they felt more confident, but then when you see the speed of reading, there was not much difference.
Yeah.
Did you see anything else like eye movements or?
No, unfortunately, I think it's a very good point, because I think that if we had some eye movement recording, maybe you could see that how they spend times on films and. Yeah,
because that will be the first step, and then they could improve the performance afterwards, after some other training or some time training.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. We then start to, and it was more successful stories. Then we want to work on morphology with another population of dyslexics, but children from low SOS income, because we know that they have very few, much less vocabulary, and it's really important in order to understand text and even read, because if you just can't, you don't know the words, very difficult to read. And we have conducted, it was with another teacher, Alicia herself, and we have conducted training studies. And what is interesting in the studies that we did not conduct the training by ourselves. It was the teachers. So we trained the teacher to explain what is morphology, what is it important for both vocabulary and reading, and we tried to construct some a training study, and there were 32 sequences, so 16 weeks with 2 training a week. First part spoken, second part written, and then the teachers try, and we compare with another training with vocabulary. And this study is about to be published. So we had and we compared 2 conditions. Two training. It's 3. Business as usual, but as you know, it's a bit difficult because we are not pretty sure what teacher indeed are doing. So difficult. And then morphological training to explain how words are made up and to help to analyze word families, to spell, because in French, I think it's just like Portuguese, it's very difficult to spell and to find and the second experimental intervention was vocabulary. With here we help children to learn new words, but also from text. So when they see a written text, they have to underline a word they don't know before, and then to think about strategies about what could be its meaning. For example, connecting this word to a word surrounding it, and a lot of strategy, avoiding, of course, morphology, because we don't want to have too many factors. So at the end, the morphological group was the groups which improved the more. So we were very happy with it. The vocabulary group improved a bit, but not so much. The reason is the problem of transfer. Of course, you can transfer your knowledge with morphology because it's a mechanism, language mechanisms, which works even though you don't know the word. But it's much more difficult to have a transfer for vocabulary. You don't know the word, you don't know the word. And you could imagine that there is a transfer for strategy. But this transfer necessitates that you know the quantity of word enough to be able to understand the meaning regarding the word surrounding it. If you don't know the other words, it does not work. And I don't know what is your opinion about this topic, but I have no ideas in the L1, what is the proportion of words you should know before in order to understand a sentence where there is a new word, or even more than one new words. I know from the studies from Polynesian in Australia, I know this question regarding L2. Regarding L2, I think that all of us have tried to read a book in English in order to improve our English, and then maybe give up. I can't read it. Why? Because there are too many words I don't understand. So if in one sentence there are 3, 4, 5 words I can't understand, I can't read.
I think this is also related to how much previsible the word is within the context.
Yeah, but if you don't know the first words, you can't make any prediction.
The position is important. At the beginning, it's hard to predict. At the end, it's much easier.
Yeah.
And how often or how many? What's the representativity of these composite derived words in French? Are they common?
Oh, yeah. It's American, more than 80.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very common.
I don't know in Portuguese. Do you know?
And regarding the proportion of words you must know already in order to understand the study. So Polynesian calculated that for L2, for example, for us for English, to have an idea about this proportion of words you should already know in order to understand the sentence. As you say, depends on the position in order to make some prediction or not, but regardless of the position, you have an idea.
An idea.
Polynesian estimated about 90 to 95% of words you should.
You need to know before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Meaning, and then, then we can understand why we gave up And why there are some, if you want to learn more in one language, I don't know, I suppose it's the same in Brazil, but in France, you have foreign books with level 1, level 2, and then you have to start with level 1 to make sure that, okay, you have the 90% of words already now. But it's not for French words, it's for L1 words, but it's not L2. But in one sense, I have no idea about what happens in L1, but I think it says something about in which condition are the children from low SES who don't know the words. And so for us, it was really important to have some, to understand how to speed up the mechanisms of improving vocabulary in children and not letting them far from the reading just because they can't understand. So they are not motivated to read, but is it really motivation or they're outside of what is said, what is written?
It's because I know there's a big difference between Brazil and France. The low SES children are mostly children of immigrant parents, no? In France?
Well, yes and no. Because I'm living in the north of France, and it's really a poor region, really. And for example, I have conducted a study in Calais. I don't know if you know Calais. Yeah, it's very famous because you do, yeah. Yeah. But most of people there are not from migrants.
Oh,
no.
Okay,
But the level of unemployment is 35%. And people have a very, very low academic level, just because it's a story of the region. Because the people there, they have to work. Comment tu l'as mis?
In mine.
Mines.
The mines, yeah.
Charcoal,
A lot of mine before. So as soon as they were 12, stop schools, go to mine. And a lot of workers, so they don't have, okay, mines are closed for a while, but in these families, it's something that school is not fun. Yeah, they have to work at 12, go to the mine. And then now there is no work anymore, but there is
Still is something
this,
cultural.
a culture, yeah. And so I would not say that it's true for the north of France. We have a very specific population with a lot of poor, well, not only in the north, also in some areas in east of France and some, but it's particularly true in the north.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to ask about what you thought was the strategy, how they can understand the words based on the root.
Yeah.
Is it strategy that's easy to be implemented, or does it demand executive function, some kind of analysis that's available after a certain age, but not too early? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a very good question. About executive function, I did not right now, but now I'm trying to include more. But at the time I did that because I was focused on language aspects. And regarding the age, it's very important question, because if you look at the literature and international literature regarding morphology in children, well, we know that we are dominated by the English literature, what is called the Anglo-centricities, and well, English has not a so strong morphology. Especially because, for a lot of reasons, but a lot of words in English language came from French and that. And if you look at, for example, a word such as dentist, which is a French word, dentist has a root dent, but So there is no relationship. And there are a lot of examples such as that, meaning that, well, the morphology is, yeah, it works for that in English, but it works much better in the French language. And we had some cross-language comparison across between English, French with my colleague Duncan, and we found that the French people, they performed higher in morphology. And then the question when we should, because of course, personally convinced that we are in an alphabetic system, so the most important is sounds, the letter of sounds, the phonemes. But once you have finished dealing with you have overcome the issue of understanding the alphabetic principle, you have to consider other dimensions. And this happens earlier in French and even in Italian, because the orthography is more transparent. So you catch the system very early in Italian and a bit then in French, and in English it takes years to understand that. I'm not sure I completely understood the English orthography, but yeah, it takes really longer. So I thought that it makes sense to introduce morphology maybe at grade 4 in English, but in French, I want to try earlier. I wanted to try at grade 3 for priming studies, but for training intervention programs, we try with low SES3 children. We try a grade 2 and 3. Yeah, early. Because also there is something very specific in France, is that very recently, for low-income areas, there is a program to have kids where you have only 12 children in classes, only 12. I don't want to comment furthermore, because the solution is that it's not only how many kids a teacher has just from, but also what you are doing with them. So it is not a full answer to the problem, but to a certain point it helps. So the kids, they could at the end of grade 1 and middle of grade 2, yeah, it was okay for decoding. The problem was really vocabulary, and to help to master the language, to improve the language.
I ask you because we are working with adults,
Yeah.
alphabets, adults, and at the moment we are trying to find out strategies how to teach them vocabulary.
Yeah.
Because of course their vocabulary is very small.
Yeah.
And it's not just the vocabulary, the executive function and working memory.
Yeah.
So it's like everything, they're deprived of everything. So it's I'm not sure if it will be efficient just to memorize the word and you don't make the links. So some kind of strategy based on what they already have would be really very interesting, because you keep building on what you have. You're not constructing from zero.
Yeah.
But the decoding skills is pretty basic too, so they are learning to decode it right now. This the adults, so it's two learning at the same time is not that easy.
But maybe you can do the strategy on oral, just training orally, and then go to the reading, because the deriving of the words like dentist, you can do just verbally, right? And this is already practice. And
I just say that because she told us the coding is so basic in the children, but for us it's not that basic. Some schools is learning right now. So just so you know that it's something different. Yeah.
But then I can move to another line of research I have developed, and Junior has contributed a lot, and I will speak about second language later, but it's about word learning in the L1. And I was interested into the line of research regarding orthographic facilitation. You're familiar with? No, meaning that if you need to learn new words, it's easier when you can read the word in addition to listening to it. It's not only just because you have two modalities instead of one, because of course, but if you, for example, I'm sure that we all experience this. If we hear a name, for example, how do you start? Not just to make sure, but also to have for memorization. And this is a very strong line of research right now that words are learned better, and the way they are integrated into memory is better when the spelling can be processed together with the pronunciation. And I was thinking about it because I know that this illiterate people, they are trying to learn to read, but seeing words, having something to see might also, might be helpful. Well, I don't know. Junior is so that is my second line of research, and Junior is trying to disentangle why it works. But I let him speaking, and I will speak about that too. Regarding what happens in memory mechanisms when you only hear a word or you only see a word, which is a bit different regarding the way the word can be integrated in memory, making a connection with related words and so forth, and also regarding the issue of time for integration. Sleep and so forth. So this is a way I try to investigate vocabulary learning, because I think that for those children who are really lacking of vocabulary, there is a need to speed the way and providing them more text, in my view, is not really helpful, because they don't understand it. So with what we are trying now with Junior is to give a list of words to teachers, and they have to learn the words to the cats. And we compare two conditions, then having the text immediately or having the text 1 week later, just to see if words can be integrated with time.
But the fact that when you think about the attentional level, as you're using two modalities, because you're using hearing and your vision, to looking at so
Tá bom? Tudo certo.
Max, I think you have your microphone open.
Someone is just saying that.
And your hand is raised, so you want to make a question? Okay, sorry, Anna.
I was like,
so, because I'm right now I'm thinking about the attentional level, because sometimes even with children, it's so easy to get distracted in the environment. So when you try to keep track of two modalities, and maybe if you have something else to do with another modality, it can even help more.
I think that's a very good point. If you ask children or people to read while listening, you focus on something. But it's not only intention, because there are some experiments, but I think it really helps. That there are some experiments just to discuss, is it just due to, because you have two modalities or instead of one? So there have been some research when instead of presenting the orthographic form of the word, they present symbols, which is helpful for maintaining attention to, but no impact. No impact at all. So the reason is just because letters, they are reinforcing the phonological form, the trace. And I don't know how it works for in Portuguese, Brazil, Portuguese, in France. We have a lot of people have noticed that the phonology of some words are more stable, are fixated once children have starting learning to read. For example, the word look in French is regard, regard. But I don't know why, but a lot of kids in kindergarten, they say regard with an O. And I don't know why they say regard. Maybe it's due to easier to pronounce it. But once they see regard, they change. Regard. And it's not conscious, but the letter has something to make the phonological trace more stable. And the same for requin. Well, say well, requin. Scale, the shark, yeah, shark is requin. And the kids, I don't know why they say requin. I don't know why. And the teacher, they say requin, not requin. Okay. But the kids are requin, you know. And then when they read, requin, okay. And it's the phonological trace becomes then more stable. And there is a strong effect of orthography on phonology. When you know how to spell a word, the way you have to pronounce it in your mother tongue, because in L2 it's just a disaster. But in your mother tongue, it's easier to memorize and say the phonology. So that the main reason I agree that that should not be only one reason of why there is orthographic consolidation, but one strong reason is that letter helps to disentangle the precise sounds. Due to co-articulation of sounds, sometimes it's not so clear what is it, a D or T, what I'm not sure. With the letter, it's much more clear.
This is the possibility for our students that's from large regions of Brazil and Northeast that have a lot of accents. So maybe the word they hear is not exactly the word we're teaching.
Yeah.
So they just could explain a little why
we should also remember that the reading is also writing, and I think this writing is also important glue for speaking the supporting the memory, as it's so automatized by a certain age.
Yeah, but we can search for some tales from some regions that have the accent or the form of pronunciation, so we can teach them in that form, and then we correct or teach them in the other possibility. But if the context more
But in Brazil, we don't have official sounds. You know, I don't know in Iran, but in Brazil, every region you go, even in the Campinas, that's
even
very
different. We have an alphabet in
Yes, we don't use so much different.
phonological way.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but also after they learn to read it, they still pronounce it with their specific.
Yeah, in France it's a bit different because, as you know, we are a very centralized country, so there is only one, even though it's not true, of course, but officially there is only one way to pronounce it.
The correct one, no?
Yeah.
I have a question, for example. You know always that You mentioned French, Italian, you know, in the comparison with the English. Do you have any idea in terms of Portuguese? I know that we have some collaboration with some Portuguese researchers in terms of the vocabulary or for the morphology, because I think ours, the Portuguese, is much closer to the French and to the Italian and Spanish compared to the English.
Yeah.
It seems that the morphology works. It would work just fine with our Portuguese as well. There is any study showing that, or although the sound is quite different from Portuguese from Portugal and Portuguese from Brazil.
Yeah.
But in Brazil, if you're in São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro,
Yes,
and you
but
are a learner, what should I do?
Yeah.
With the S and R, maybe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yes. Foreigners suffer at the beginning. Yeah, they
Yeah.
move to state, you don't understand
Yeah.
it.
I'm not aware about studies or professions.
And the Portuguese are not doing much in that case, because I hear in Brazil it's really hard. I mean, we not have some standard thing in terms of our vocabulary or our phonemes or.
We don't, but we have a great deficiency in
Yeah.
teaching. We don't work vocabulary much.
Yeah.
I mean, at schools, teachers, they work a lot of textual production and different kind of styles, but like specifically teaching vocabulary. I think we believe that you absorb it somehow, you know, automatically.
Teaching by the
It's not a big
context, you know?
exposure.
Yeah, but there is a strong debate, as you know, about how you should train in an explicit way or implicit way, and definitively regarding when all is okay, implicit works. But but when you have to when you have a strong deficit, no, there is no time for implicit learning.
Need to be
You need to be, and then when you, I think that all meta-analysis that which have compared intervention vocabulary are very clear. If you have a deficit, you should be very explicit. And but it doesn't mean that it is the way it works. Usually we work a lot with implicit learning, but when you just have to fill the gap, you have to work hard. Then explicit is better.
That's already a problem here in Brazil, because they don't know that's the problem. Sometimes this is just the way of thinking, you know. So because you have a strong constructivist background, so you know, to the first, third degree grade, you're teaching. If the kids learn to read, okay. If you don't, it's her problem.
Yeah.
But it's been changing.
We are trying really hard, but we're changing.
There has been a pressure from the top, the federal pressure, that all the kids are finish the process of learning to read at the end of the second year.
Second year,
Which is still like it should be the first grade, but it's not
It's better
realistic.
than nothing. Before we don't have a.
I think it used to be the same in France. I don't know. And they started when my children were young. They start learning to read with the look and say method. Because they knew that it was unusual. They said, no, I don't know, just knows text already. I don't know how to decode it. It's perfectly nuanced. But so in France it was also, but now I think that we moved to a more evidence-based approach.
You have like about 10 years of the reading panel. So important.
Yeah.
And also
Thanks to
universities.
people like Standea.
In France, there's a huge push from the universities to bring evidence in different aspects, and it's not happening here.
And of course, people like Standea did a huge work just to have an idea from the ministry, which is really important. Yeah.
Very nice.
So, yeah, and that's it for the L1, and then I have some studies in L2, but maybe we can, I will.
Okay.
later.
So shall we,
Brilliant.
so the students that present that short presentation, 5 minutes about each project, so you have an overview of what we do, and then we have some more 10 minutes. to have a coffee. And also, like, who's listening, gente, quem quiser colocar alguma pergunta, tá? Por favor, fiquem à vontade. Quem tá online.
Mas acho que eu agradecendo.
And because a few of them, they must leave a little bit earlier.
Sergio,
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
does.
Some.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
We have to.
but Sergio, you see them very, a lot, and Paula as well.
So they are from Bauru.
Ah, okay.
UNESP.
Pode deixar as perguntas.
Very nice.
Depois a gente abre.
Kátia, vamos avançar. Okay.
So I'm the first talking, so there's a lot of pressure. But I'm trying to do my best. So one of the branches that here in research is the games and reading skill, or some skill. And the project that I worked in my master's degree and my PhD was Kalulu. Now Kalulu has two options. Kalulu that's on the left is for with the hair is the children, and to the right is the adults. Yeah. All the teaching is the same. Just the instruction and the explanation is different voices because
For IB treatment.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yes and no. We use it in the study that we present. We use it in schools that was teaching the methods that they already used to. So we use like
Add-on strategy.
that I don't know, some extra activity. Okay, I will not enter in the all the explanation about Kodo because we don't have time. But the essential is that we teach the coding skills and we teaching the story about the brain, and you see all the colors in there, and we teach a ladder that is the photo to the right, and 3 games that complete to train that ladder. I say the ladder, but it's the sound of the ladder. Okay.
Yeah. But the C is allowed. The C.
Yes, the C. Yes, the C. Yes, we have all letters and sounds to teach. But just a catch. And I just put 6 games here just to demonstrate something. But the first column is the graphical and training. So it's just you hear the sound and I have to click on the screen what you hear. The second column is word construct, and I have the monkey and the frog. That's the kid hear the full word and have to compose the word letter by letter, sound by sound. Okay. If you click on the coconut or on the plant, you hear the sound, so you can make sound by sound. And to the last column, you have 2 different trainings. Only one is working memory training, where the birds appear like that, and then they turn back, and the kids have to find where they were. And the last the last with the fish is like a boss room in a game. It's a test. So the kid see a word in the about the fish. Is really small, but she yes, there. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's a word here.
There's a word about the fish, and the kid needs to send the word. If it's Portuguese, to the flag of Brazil, and if it's a pseudo word or a non word, to the flag of Kalulu.
And it's only spoken.
No, just sing the word.
Sing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So just
Oh.
sorry, just a question. Why do you have a picture of the words? Oh no, it's the fish.
You need to move the fish to the flag.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I thought
there-
it was a meaning. So
No, it's
okay.
just it's
Okay.
all about animals. So the fish is
Okay.
flying above the sea, and you have to.
Okay, just for fun.
Yeah, it's for fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sun that's above the clouds, and the sun is crossing the sky. So when the sunset of the end, you have lost because you have no more time. So
Great.
their way you can try.
Get started, it's time to go home.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We have more games. Just have like more 5 or 6 games inside this.
And this is the game from the lab of Stanislas Dehaene they're using in France in grade school.
And have in Colombia.
Yeah.
That is
This
Spanish
year.
version. Yeah, Spanish
And
version.
is this available?
It's now available in Play Store, yeah, for Portuguese, and it's free. Like
Where do you find it?
in Play Store, just in Play Store. We don't have in the Apple system.
I have it
Apple.
installed.
Apple.
It's been there like for 2 weeks.
Okay. I don't have
It's in progress, so it's been online for 2 months.
Okay.
For
I have Apple too. And I just summarized some findings. This is the result from my article that we did in 2022. The 184 children, they participate in 5 schools. So we have 3 schools with Calulu and 2 schools that were controlled using only the method that's used here in Brazil. Okay. But the experimental group use the same teaching that we have in Brazil plus Calulu, okay?
Okay.
They don't use only they don't only Calulu, yeah. That's the debate. The most, if not all, the schools are centered in constructivist teaching, so we have to make these adjustments. So we did a bunch of tests, right? But the interesting findings is the number of words that we read. That's the first result. The number of letters named with E, with the letter, and the percentage of correct for genes are the findings that we get a valid, a significant result, right? But we test them. The vocabulary for animals, that is to talking the most number of the animals that you know in 1 minute, and the letter naming, that is just say the name of the letter. That's so Calulu doesn't teach exactly vocabulary like this. It's for the coding and for the starting to read, but that's why the number of animals read doesn't have a significant result. And the letter naming is a ceiling effect because all that's expected at the end of the first year, all children must read on, but I rather know the number of the letters.
How many hours spent?
And hours, actually it was 2 to 3 times a week, 20 minutes per group. There were 3 groups in a classroom, and then after 20 minutes they change for another activity that is pen and paper, but basic on the phonological teaching. And after that, with this 2020, we have an hour, and is an hour for teaching classes.
And for how long?
For the year.
A year, okay.
The school year. The beginning of March until the middle of November. We just stop for the holidays. That is July here in Brazil. But all the time, if we have like 40 to 45 sessions of training along the years.
Were they all from the same school or different schools?
5 schools, 3 Calulu, 2 of the control schools, and here in Santander.
But here in this area here.
Yeah, in Santander, yeah. And 2 schools were from one on the perimeter on the control group were for low as low income. Actually, most of them are low income because it's public schools, but this too is very low income. So yeah, right. We try to make the groups the closer that we can. That's it. Like I said, I will not go any longer because we don't have time, and I like to talk a lot. So I need to listen.
Yeah, but it's really interesting. Yeah.
I think so too.
But this line with Calulu is continuing. So also because the lab of Stanislas Dehaene, they want to spread it all over. It's free, so anyone can adapt. So this year they started in Colombia. They will start in Argentina. And we started this year, we started a randomized study with 1,200 children in Cambé, in Paraná. It's a whole municipality is involved, and half they are in the experimental group, half they are in the control group, and the teachers are applying it, and we are following. At the end of this year, we will have some results. So,
Okay.
and this is really important because we have good results. We have evidence to hit upstairs. Guys, so we need to change the method.
Okay, continuing the exploration that began with Kalu, we're now using functional near-infrared spectroscopy to see how memory and executive functions contribute to literacy acquisition, especially verbal short-term memory. So we apply the digital task and the naturalistic tasks to assess how this memory processes will translate to reading development, both in controlled and ecological settings. We are analyzing the data because we're not very much familiar with the pipelines for analyzing nearest data. We saw something.
How old are the children?
7 years.
So
like
they are grade 1 or
Yeah,
grade
6
two?
to 7 years.
It was not too difficult to have some authorization from the yes. No,
It depends. It always depends on who talks to them, because they have good relation with the children, with the teacher, with school. So we usually go to school and present to the parents, and sometimes it works, sometimes it works worse. So sometimes, like in this class that Abdu was collecting the results, some parents, they didn't like to have their kids scanned. But our equipment is a portable one, so we go to the school.
so you can collect data in the school.
Yeah.
But still, some parents, they think, no, this is a Guinea pig, like laboratory, and I won't sign it. It's okay. So sometimes we get like 20 kids, sometimes we get 30, because everyone knows that it's important. And this year it was even funny because I presented to parents and I was like, okay, we do this, but we won't collect this year because we just are so busy. And some mothers, they were like, I can collect for you. I can collect. So, it really depends on who you talk to.
I'm impressed. Sometimes it's
very much in favor of
collect
science.
data with neuro imaging.
This would be harder maybe to get the kids to fMRI, but this is portable. It's just a cap, so it doesn't hurt, and they are more. When they see it, if you show to the parents and put it on a teacher, they get involved and they see that it's
Nothing much.
it's not a big deal.
We made many sessions showing the equipment and how it works. So they were familiarized with the procedure. So there was 23 kids, and 7 of them were excluded from the analysis, this preliminary analysis, because they had ADD or any development issue. So, what we're trying to do is understand if the digital task can act as a localizer to a naturalistic memory task. So the digital task was like this: 20 seconds of baseline. So we make the signal, both signal, the HRF to gamma, enter the state. So sorry, let's start again. We'll have 10 seconds baseline followed by 45 seconds of the condition. Where we used like 3 to 4 digits. Most of the kids were 4 digits for the straight version. And then it was baseline, 45 seconds of repeated repetition, and then baseline for 7 blocks, a gap where we changed the procedure, then started the inverse order. So it was with 2 digits. because it was like the comfortable position for all the kids.
Mm.
If you maybe 3, they started to miss a lot, so
Yeah.
we wanted to get it on the asymptotic behavior. So that's what we tested for DigiSpan, and then for the naturalistic tasks was right after it. There was an introduction block, a baseline block. There was the storytelling, like the flow of the story. We used this as baseline. We guess we were wondering that episodic memory process and other language process was not what we were trying to find. So there was the next block was for encoding the information, like how many apples did Camilão put on the basket, had on the basket. So then the children would evoke this information. The next block, like 3 apples, and then we went on for 7 blocks. With 4 of them were the condition. You can go.
Just to complement quickly. So in the study of Camilo, we saw that the working memory really improved in children that were doing Kalulu. And this study shows that when they read, when they learn reading, their working memory improves within the first 3 grades. You know? And this is something that in France, they don't find that evident. But here, as we have children from really poor background, we think that working memory might be really deficient. And we see also in adults that don't study it's deficient. So this is the study of Abdo and also Mariela. And but what's the challenge that if we do digit span with children 6, 7, they just hate it. They don't really. You have to be next to them. And, you know? So we want to go to naturalistic storytelling and trying to study the working memory storytelling. And this is the jump from one to the other is not that easy. So this is what Abdo is trying to make the bridge between like a neuropsychological task as digit and then what we can see in the natural story.
What is your interpretation about, I agree with this, that the fact that working memory improves with reading acquisition. How you explain this?
Just guesses. Actually, like study shows that when you learn to decode,
You have to straw a lot.
yeah, you practice a lot working memory because when you read a word ba ta ta, you come to the end, you still have to remember what's at the beginning. Now, and we see that this is a huge challenge for some children that they go round and round and round because they're losing the information all the time. So I think the practice of reading is really improving the working memory, but also the vocabulary and all the world that you access when you read, you know? So probably it's that.
It's really
Yes, and you learn to do the connections. No, you create the connections within the word and between the words in the sentence. I guess.
I think that goes this way. Like you said, the meaning of words, semantic relations, makes facilitate the emergence of the morphological rules. So I guess it's a scaffolding of processes, you know, and then maybe this memory process can help package all this. You know, you need to learn to chunk it, the information in higher chunks for syllables, for phoneme syllables, words, phrases. So the syntactic relations may be emerging from this process too. So I guess it's all-rounded interconnected process. I don't know. As you can see, there's the oxy and deoxy time series for one channel over direct order. It's like the first line of imaging. On the frontal lobe. Yeah, our setting is a frontal lobe that covers superior frontal gyre, inferior gyre, and medial gyre. You know, like on the 1020, sorry, how can I say this?
What?
1020 coordinate space, you know, from EG. So as you can see, there's a canonic activation. The oxy is going up while the deoxy is going down almost. Constantly, you can see there all the event related averaging. 20 seconds is the baseline. Forwards the block, and then the block you can see the peaks of activity, and then the 20 seconds baseline afterwards. We're seeing there's activity there. I forgot to mark, but there is the right lobe, and then here's the left lobe. So we have activity in the inferior frontal gyre over the channel mostly, but we can see that there's more activity on the left inferior frontal gyre and superior gyre over direct order, but for direct order and inverse order, there's some pattern of activity that resembles there's some similitude over them. And we can see that on the encoding phase of naturalistic task, the same channels are involved over encoding and retrieval of information, but on the right side. So we need to understand a little better if there's a on the right.
That's French.
Yeah,
It's not the left hemisphere, the language hemisphere.
yeah.
So you get this data with 22 children.
16 children, 7 were removed from the. But
impressive. I think it's really interesting to
we're using fixed effect models.
Maybe it's because of its numbers, no?
This is the encoding. That's the story, right? That's the story.
Direct order for G's and inverse order, and this is the naturalistic task, encoding and retrieval. There are 2 conditions.
And the story is that they're listening about the pig that's walking in the city and putting things in his basket, like a cheese, and they get every now they get questions about, how many cheese did he put in the basket? How many milk?
They could help with visual.
Very little. There was also a picture, but just illustrative, like a pig with
No
basket.
information. There's no information over the item that was entering the basket. So.
Who read the story to the children? Maybe they are
A computer. It was a voice. It was recorded from the computer.
Yeah, we use PsychoPy to
Okay.
present the stimuli.
It was like an audio story that the kid was listening and watching a picture, just of a pig walking, but no movement. It was static image, so they could focus on the linguistic part. But this is still work in progress. It's a master.
It's really impressive to have this.
So we're interpreting this over the lateralization hypothesis. So there's activity on the right hemisphere. Strong activity and more diffuse activity on the left hemisphere over both conditions. In the inverse order, we can see there's a little less activity, but we tested these children 6 months and the pattern looks like something the same with more lateralization. It's still preliminary.
If you test later, you will see. I don't know.
No, we need to analyze this data. We refigured the naturalist task. Over now, it's not Camilão, it's a robot that goes and needs to say items all over the woods. So let's see what we will find there.
Next chapters.
Okay. I'll go very briefly because there's still a bunch of things. This is a study we are conducting with Stan as well. We're doing the Kalulu intervention with illiterate subjects. This is a brief theoretical standpoint of where we're going from. Do you have familiar with visual world form area?
Yeah.
Okay, so no need to explain. We are investigating if there is development of the visual world form area in illiterate adults.
Okay.
Meanwhile, they are doing the Kalulu intervention. So they are adults that don't read. They read up to 20 words per minute, but very poorly. So we have most of these adults reading like 0 words or 3 to 4 words. So we are doing the intervention every week, 3 times a week. And we are doing scans in our 7 Tesla fMRI once a month. You can go. So this is the task. They are subject inside of the scans. They see.
Excuse me, I just have a question about illiterate people.
Yes.
They never went to school, or that just
No.
went so few that
They went to school. Some of them went to school like until 5 years of age, 8 years of age. It's similar with the mine workers, because they mostly are from the northeast from Brazil, and they had to quit studying. The mean age is like 57 years old, so they are
different stories. Each has different story, but some of them they really didn't go to school even a month at all.
yes.
yeah, because the family did not send them.
Because very often they are the firstborn
Yeah.
between the
Yes.
children, and they have to go to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Yeah, like working the planting or
Or
it's
just taking care of the younger siblings.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
just,
An issue,
Or
also
because
in Africa now.
or they were women. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, there are many stories.
so
In general, they were not.
no, in general, it's
Over
50-50. They were schooled, but very little in
Yeah.
the beginning of their age. They mostly are not really familiar even with the names of the words, the letters. So they don't know the full alphabet. So it's really, really poor learning. So
And what is the proportion of illiterate people?
in Brazil,
Yeah.
we have
17.
17%.
It's lots.
It's
We don't
lots.
even
It's
imagine
huge.
how many
It's huge
people.
proportion.
And they are invisible. You know, they live among us, but you don't know about them because they are shame about that they don't know.
Sure.
So sometimes waiting for a bus, you can be approached by a person like this, and people tell you, "Oh, I forgot my glasses.
Yeah.
Can you see what bus is coming?" And so there are lots of people like this. But
How many names?
17.
17.
And that's one thing, for example, when you see the buses here in São Paulo or in Brazil, they have the name and the number, because the number is easy for them
Yeah,
To
to
memorize. Also
So they go
colors.
by the number instead of
Yes.
going by the place or the name of the.
But even though some of them can remember the names, they have very limited lifestyles. They live close by to where they walk around close by to where they live. They cannot come and go
Yeah,
easily. So to go to the fMRI scan, we always call for an Uber
Yeah.
to take them. And they are also really, really poor. So
Yeah.
because they cannot yet work besides like cleaning and doing manual work.
Yeah, I think it's much more difficult to illiterate right now
Yes.
compared to some decades ago.
Yes, certainly.
there are lots of programs in Brazil to eradicate the illiteration, but they are not much successful. It takes lots of time.
Yeah.
Once you lost the period, it's very hard to change the reality. So there are people that study for many years, even these subjects, they are not newcomer to the school. They have been there for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or they are on and off. You know, they go and drop out. They go and drop out. It's a huge dropout rate.
And they always have to compensate because they come from work late at night. The school is at night. They are tired. they go to school like 2-3 hours. They are tired. They cannot. It's very different from a kid that has their full time to go to school and focus mostly on it. So we have 10 subjects now that are the intervention group, and we're also running a control group. But this is a longitudinal study, so they are the controls of themselves, because we have the start and the finish. It will be an intervention spanning mostly a year or so. In the end of the year, we believe we will end the intervention. What they do inside the scanner is we have a bunch of images of 7 types of images. They have tools, bodies, numbers, faces, pseudo words, and houses. So they are inside of the scan, and they need to press a button every time they see a star, just so we know they are awake inside the scan.
To keep focus on the task.
Yeah, exactly. And we are also performing a resting state task. After they do this, they stay in the scanner, watch movie, and they stay not doing nothing, so we can see also the connectivity changes in the months that go by. I'll show you here one very preliminary result that we have. This is one subject. This is the first session before the intervention, and this is the second session after, I believe, 2 months of intervention. Okay. We had a bit of issue with the continuity of the subjects because they missed school, something happened. But this is one of the subject that we pre-process. And if we look here in the first session, there is little to no activation if we put the p-value on 0.001 of the visual word form area. But after the intervention, we can see like a tiny speck. If you look really closely,
just a red dot.
a little red dot. And I don't know, fingers crossed, we will see this in other subjects. As well as the intervention, we're also performing executive function assessments trimestrally, every 3 months. And we're also checking for the reading. So in words read per minute. This subject is specifically between this and this session had an increase of 2 words read in the word per minute task. So this is what we're doing now. And late today, we're going to another school to look for controls, just to have them go to the scan. They are enrolled in schools, but not with the Kalulu intervention. So we're going to do a HMAX control without the Kalulu intervention and with the Kalulu intervention on illiterate subjects.
Yeah, very impressive. And what's about the effectiveness of programs for illiterates? I do not specially, of course, regarding your specific points, but regarding reading, do they become readers? Some of them?
Some of them, yes, but the program is also constructivism, based on constructivism, and that's not efficient, not much. So our adults, they have been in this class for 2-3 years, and they are still not decoding anything.
Because
We just started at the end of the last year, and they now the red dot just appeared right now.
And this is a subject that was already enrolled in the school.
Because a question is it possible to have an automaticity involved reading when you're an adult?
Yeah, we think yes. I believe. I really want to believe that it's possible, but we do it's not just the reading that we assess, we also assess the executive function with mock and rapid automatic naming tasks and working memory tasks. And we really see that their executive functions are really, really bad. Like if you do the digit inverted order, they are not able to invert 2 digits.
Because we would expect us walking,
Yes.
I mean, having a job when you have
Yeah.
even a low but a small responsibility, you have to
Yeah.
develop some executive.
They are getting around very well. They have their jobs and they
Yeah.
have their families. But when we focus on learning, even like if you think about working in a 2D page, when you are at school, you learn to read from left to right, top to down.
Yeah.
For them, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
So their visual spatial abilities and how you process the information, it doesn't work as we do. I mean, it's
It makes sense.
yeah.
That it's looking at the top on the left just
Doesn't mean anything.
it's just
Yes.
an effect of letters.
Yeah, and they do lots of guessing because I think the whole life they have been
They have
guessing.
guesses
Yeah.
all the time.
So we have to use with them lots of strategies to constrain the guessing. So, for example, use the reading window so they don't see the whole word and just the part, because then we force them to decode. And what they do because of the teaching, they learn the alphabet names and then they do like B and A, ba, D and O, do, ba, do. But this is so much work, and so inefficient. So once they decode one word, they are already okay. That's it.
One thing, it's the third thing that they like Kalu. So they are playing the tablets and they are liking the game and they are, sometimes they prefer to just play the game and don't make the other activities. So it's an interesting topic.
Yeah, it's similar to when you were discussing the dyslexics and the self-confidence. We are talking about a population that is really low in confidence because they are in the margins of society. And just the fact that we are looking at them and going to the school and taking them to the fMRI, even though they don't like the fMRI. I don't think anyone likes being inside the machine, but they go. It's something that they feel seen, and it changes their relation, maybe probably with the reading. But they do report feeling taken care of because they weren't their whole lives.
And do you control if they practice at home? You have this control.
We try.
But
The thing is that my students, they go 3 times a week to do the examination. And from the beginning of the year, we try to give them homeworks. And it's just not very successful.
Because this reminds my grandfather. He went to school when he was 65 because his goal was to learn how to write his name. And I remember I was a kid and he was so excited about class. And every time he would find the bag when he buy bread, he would get the bag and the pen and he started practicing. Right? Because he liked that so much. And all the time he was practicing. And when he would start to read the newspaper, and of course the kids, his grandson was always make fun of him because he would go like, ba-lum, 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 ba-lum. And he would stay forever to read the word. But he was always practicing. So, and he could,
Because he was motivated.
and
They
so
are
that's why I
motivated,
think
but
it might make difference. The stimulation, like I want to, they want to,
they really
and they
want.
keep practicing when they are away. Every time they have an opportunity, they will practice.
They
So
really
really
want
to keep track of.
They
that.
always ask us every time they go to the scans. They ask us, "Do you think I will be able to learn someday?" And we say, "Most certainly, we believe so. We are here to help." But they really yearn for it. They want to learn, but we are not seeing they're not going as fast as we are hoping.
And probably, I think another issue that may interfere on that is the childhood. How was the nutrition facts?
Yeah.
They come from the Northeast. They probably could not eat the right food, and all these kinds can contribute for learning.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And in France, there are not illiterate people just you described, but there are some people who left school very early without learning so much. And can be, we say illiterate for them, but it's not the same meaning really. But with it, and when we discuss with them, they are about 10%, but they are able to do more than your participants. But what they have in mind is that when they have kids, when the kids will go to first grade, they just want to be able to, for example, strong motivation. When my son or my daughter will be in grade 5, I just want to read with him more. And it's really helpful for motivation. But maybe they are not so far from
what we hear from them, most of them are women. There are only 3 or 4 men in the class of 25. And some of the women, they say, they speak because their children are already grown up. So they say, okay, I gave everything for my children. And now it's my turn. Now I want to go to school to learn.
So you have to wait a bit to see the.
We hope. Yeah, because neuroplasticity, we know we lost the window, but it's tiny, but hopeful.
It's hopeful. Thank you very much.
Not always the government help with this improvement, because one of the projects that we have here is to teach the adults in online based strategy. So if they don't go to school, how they will go to online and to the computer and then the classes.
Yes.
So it's not that very good strategy.
It's not very good.
But now there is something else. For example, in our cell phone, people are using a lot of recording because you do not have to write anymore. You know, they just record.
And then but you can check. Sometimes it's necessary to check.
Some of them gave me a scare because we talk in WhatsApp by audio only, but one of them sent me like a text, and I was like, "What is this?" But then I realized it's audio to text. So,
not sure what's going to happen shortly.
Okay.
So we have time, but it's sort of about your time.
This is the research of Andrea, is one of the colleagues. She's a school teacher, so she couldn't be here, so she asked me to help to explain zero of her work. I didn't make these slides, so I would try to make it as better I can.
I was reviewing English, so
if you want to talk.
I guess she explained too, but
So her study is basically about how a music or singing could help in teaching how to read and write. So this is based on children in the first grade or even before, younger children. And Andrea, she's a music teacher, so she works with this for many years. But she structured an intervention that's based basically on rhyme, training, alliteration, then segmentation, and then exclusion. This was like 5 months, 6 months program that she applied in her class. And then she had some control group in children doing arts.
Mm-hmm.
She was also applying this.
And it was a private school, different from Cairo, that was a public school.
This is a private school, and the children, they have 2 or 3 languages. So this is really, the sample is not very typical.
They have English and Japanese in the school.
Okay.
Yes.
Beside the Portuguese.
But this is also this a line that study that we would like to invest more, because the music is so natural to Brazilian people, and if we could take advantage of it, well, teaching how to read and write would be nice.
And as we talk, that the background we have here for the constructivism, we don't have a lot of the coding for the first years. The phonological awareness is like that, so we don't train the phonological awareness. So this kind of study and this kind of train that she created can help us to go to public schools and make use of that intervention.
So these are slides that she elaborated for the teachers to follow the intervention. So the teacher doesn't have to be a music teacher, it can be any teacher, because everything is recorded and the teacher can put it on the screen and play it and just do it alone. And in one part, there's the impact on the sound, pronunciation, and the mouth, the shape of the mouth. And then she also teaches a little bit of, so it's an intervention that takes 20 minutes, really short, but she teaches the sound, then she teaches the perception of the melody, the voice rising and decreasing, and then there's a little song that the children repeat again and again, that has a rhyme in it, or that has the manipulation or whatever is being tracked.
Their music for all the phonemes, so she can practice and then repeat and repeat and repeat.
And before this intervention, she also did assessment to see the memory for sounds, to see the perception of sounds, and there was third one, melody, memory, and
rapid assessment.
And then she also assessed the reading and working memory. And basically, after the intervention, she could see an effect just for the melody, rhyme, and musical memory. We didn't see any direct effect on reading skills or phonological awareness. Yeah, so
the intervention was in grade
one. Yes,
Okay.
it was in grade 1. She was in this special school. So we don't know if we didn't find effect on reading and phonological awareness, because the kids are already very good. Or if it doesn't work really. If you don't have the transfer, because we see that they improved in everything that was trained, melody and memory for the melody, and in the rhyme, they improved, but they didn't transfer to reading or to phonological awareness.
And after the pandemic of COVID, this school, we know this because the teacher told us they really get to train their phonological awareness and the communication. So they already practice a lot. That's one reason.
But the idea is to go to public school, and in public school they don't really train. It's even like the official rules in Brazil, they don't recommend to do anything before the first grade.
Yeah.
So that's nothing.
For the first grade, like you're teaching the kids to explain something it's awful. Yeah.
That's very sad.
Very sad. But the results of Andrea is really interesting, because she two times this studies she create the intervention. The teachers give her a feedback of what can change, what's the best way of teaching, and then she adapts to a final version. That's the final version of the grade. So now we have a corpus of it.
You say that in that school, children are bilingual, Japanese?
It's a Japanese school.
So they have to learn to read in Japanese as well?
I don't think learn to read, no, but they learn the language. They study the language. They have to, when the teacher comes in the class, they greet the teacher in Japanese, and so they have some interference of the Japanese.
Yeah, because I was wondering to what extent the both languages maybe have, I don't know, but the connection with rhythm and melody could be a bit different. I don't know. I was just wondering
It's
how,
also different.
yeah.
Just the context, because there's a huge community of Japanese
yeah.
immigrants,
Uh-huh.
but this is like I don't know, 50s or maybe even earlier that they came to Brazil. But here in São Paulo State, there are lots of Japanese
Yeah.
descendants,
Uh-huh.
and specifically this school in São Bernardo, very near, it belonged to Japanese community, and it was a boarding school. So people that lived 30 kilometers away, they send their children to stay in the school and study. So it's not like that anymore. It's open to anyone, but they still keep the tradition. That's why they teach Japanese.
And the kids in the, for example, when they are playing during breaks, they speak in
No,
Japanese.
just
or-
Portuguese.
Just
Yes.
Portuguese.
They're not really bilingual. but
Yeah,
they
not
are
really
bilingual.
bilingual.
Yeah, actually, they teach English, they teach Spanish, they teach Japanese. They have lots of languages, but they might be bilingual with English, but not Japanese. But they have this. It's not really representative sample. They have this different approach to tradition and to languages.
For the first line, the first two tests is just a musical test. It's melody, rhythm, and memory and music. So it's just a test that is directed to the music skills.
Yeah, I
That's why the
understand.
groups change.
Yeah, I understand, but I was just wondering about the lack of transfer regarding reading, and I was thinking maybe because they have to deal with several languages, it might be much more important than music. I was just wondering if you are with a monolingual participant, maybe the connection might be easier to find, because when you are dealing with a lot of languages, you have dealing with a lot of sounds, and you have to decide what's you have to take a lot of decision. Well, and
What's
so
the
the contribution of music could be maybe less, because they have to deal a lot with several sounds of languages.
Yeah.
That was just my
It makes sense, yeah.
my point about the lack of transfer, because maybe if you are working with monolingual children, there are more room for transfer. I mean, yeah.
Definitely makes sense.
Even the working memory now, the
Yeah.
studies that we use
Yeah.
show that in 30 in non-com countries, the working memory skills are very important compared to other countries. So that applies to better schools, and particular schools here in Brazil that has a high education.
I don't know in what direction it would explain, but we can see that melody, rhythm, and musical memory, there was improvement.
Yeah.
And this school already has this background that they have music classes, they have
That's what I thought.
like Japanese drums and
Both groups have music. in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
curriculum,
sure,
but
yeah.
the group that Andrea did the intervention, that got the results. But both groups have music.
So now we finished the literacy topic. The hardest. So, so I will present some parts of my master studies. Now I'm currently in PhD and I'm researching the same topic. So I investigated the association of arithmetic performance with the number sense, performance, verbal, and visual spatial working memory in children with and without reading difficulties. So I use these tasks. One task of arithmetic performance. One is this is the task of number sense, is a number comparison task. The children need to point to the biggest number as fast as possible. This is the task of the visual spatial working memory, and this is found for the verbal working memory. And one of our results is that we can see a statistical difference when we compare the children with and without reading difficulties. So the orange curve is children with reading difficulties, and the blue curve is about children without reading difficulties. And it's so interesting because the task of arithmetic doesn't have any text to read. But this difference, we can see it in all school years from grade 2 to grade 5. And this difference between children with and without reading difficulties, I see in the other cognitive functions too. So all the cognitive functions, I'm sure they have this difference between children with and without reading difficulties. And no problem.
The unit there is the time that they took to point the number. What you're measuring here?
Oh, it's the score of the test. This arithmetic is.
Yeah, but usually it's based upon the time that they take to point the number.
No, this is not the number comparison test. This is this arithmetic test.
Oh.
It's some accounts to
The result.
result. And we have 8 accounts.
I see. Okay.
So it's number of columns.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't put the graphics here, but we've had similar results with all the other cognitive functions, number sense, and density, and cubes, Coxy cubes. And the linear regression, this show what this cognitive function, number sense, phonological, and visual spatial working memory was the best predictor of the arithmetic performance. For the grade 2, only the visual spatial memory was a significant predictor of the arithmetic. For third year, no significant predictor of arithmetic performance was found. To grade 4, just symbolic number sense. The number comparison task was the significant predictor of arithmetic. And the grade 5, both symbolic number sense and phonological memory was the predictors. Some other.
So the level of difficulty was the same for all the
All the
grades,
grades.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what you can see there, as they go further, it gets like
Larger
increased
the
this
difference, yeah.
difference.
Yes. Between children with and without reading difficulties.
Yeah, I have a question. Well, I have a lot of questions, but that's something that's a bit surprising in your result, especially regarding the comparison of two numbers. Should be not so difficult for children with difficulties. So I was wondering if it's a mean about two groups, and if your group of reading difficult includes, for example, some dyslexic children. We know that no dyslexic, because we know that there are some comorbid. Yeah, and I was wondering if you could have also a view of yeah, it's comparison of two means, but we could also ask how many children have a outlier performance. I mean, how do they perform lower? Because the mean reflects something very general, and we could expect, for example, you say that there is no dyslexic, but if you could consider that if there were some dyslexic children, okay, some of them could perform very, very low due to comorbid with dyscalculia, and some of them could perform on average, have an average score, something very normal as performance. So maybe a question could be how many children with reading disabilities perform on the normal range, and how many have a very pathologic score.
Maybe in box
Just,
score.
The proportion, I mean, you know what I mean?
yeah,
The
that's
proportion
just
of-
is not kids with disorder. It's difficult to read.
to read. So
Yeah, this is a group that has difficult to read, not
Not
something I don't know. This
Yeah.
it's just
But the difficulty is that it's a public school again, and some many kids they don't get diagnosed. at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they might be with them.
How do you find out that they have reading difficulties?
Was the teacher told, and we did this another tasks and then reading tasks and writing tasks
Yeah.
to confirm this.
Yeah.
That
It was indication by the teacher and confirmed by our testing.
No, I am asking that because this is, I need to know how to do that, because like, for example, how do you know if somebody has a reading difficulty? Is it time that they take to read a list of words, or the amount of errors? Like how do you do that?
Usually we use the reading speed as a criteria.
So you time?
Yes, and it's a reading of words, isolated words. But
1
you could-
minute test.
Yeah, 1 minute test. Yeah.
Mhm.
But it was not exactly this case, because in this study we use there's a battery in Portuguese, PDF, so we use this battery, but yeah, the reading 1 minute reading word is the best.
And only psychologists can apply this test?
You know,
for
anyway,
research,
no.
but
Yeah,
It's not for diagnosis. not for
yeah,
characterize.
just for yeah.
One thing that will be interesting to check, I mean, just asking that, because, for example, for dyslexic children, we know that they have longer reaction time.
Mhm.
So that might be something related to some processing of information or whatever, and that will be the case. And if that will be the case, you just put in there like a covariant, and then we could take that out. I mean, the difference is in terms of some, processing that they take longer. And I mean, it's for dyslexic children. I mean, we have a bunch of data showing that. Of course, that they're not dyslexic, I know, but
But for this arithmetic test, they don't have time to do the results. They can take the test as long as
yeah. But that might be something.
Yeah, variable. Yeah.
Because, for example, in one of the tests there that they have to point the number,
Yes,
some
the
of the
number
number, that is the time that you take into account.
You
And
have
if they already have some, reaction, slower reaction, that you end up in the results. But that is just a guess. I mean,
Yeah, it should be considered, yeah.
Yeah, what's striking is that the difference is significant for 4 tasks. Yes. Yeah. Which is a bit surprising, because if you go back, we could expect for the first, when you have to add or to compute, because you manipulate string with sounds and so on. But regarding the sense of numbers, it's a bit surprising to have an explanation of the.
No, it was surprising for us.
Yeah.
Because this is from a battery, this is a Canadian battery, by Daniel Ansari, and they use it for the preschool.
Yeah.
And we assessed children from 5th grade, and we saw the difference still. So it was surprising for us.
Yeah.
We didn't really expect it, but
Even the grade 5, it doesn't fully develop this ability.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, it's still larger. The difference is still larger than the
Yeah.
beginning.
yes.
It's
But this is really like, this is a public school, but really they receive children from community, favela. So it's really like low class children.
But for good readers as well. For so
Yes.
manage.
Yes.
yeah.
It's not, I don't think it's good readers, it's just the different groups.
The average.
Exactly. It's just difficult and not difficult. It's not great.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the results is a little strange, but the results in Brazil for maths is just like the Olympics. It's really bad. So I don't think it's that strange. The results about the 5th grade, yes, but the bad results in maths, not so much.
yes.
Vamos avançar?
Okay. And I finished my answer. I
Always.
also investigated the association with the performance and the arithmetic and all cognitive tasks with the connectivity of different prefrontal regions during a resting state collected with FNIRS. So I found a significant correlation with about these two regions, that is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, interhemispheric connectivity with arithmetic. So this connected is correlated with arithmetic performance, with symbolic number sense performance, and with visual spatial performance. So that's it.
Question? Really interesting. And how many participants you had there?
Here, 85.
Okay, so you can find.
And here we have 130 participants.
When you say there is that correlation, there is for both groups or just for one group?
What?
For example, the next slide is when you say that you found that correlation is for the regular readers and the slow readers all together, or
As all together, and because of to have a more variability of the performance.
okay.
Great.
And also interhemispheric connectivity is different between children of the grade 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. This is not surprising. The connective. This is the project of Ito.
And Winter has to leave because he's collecting data. So let's go to Lisa, and that's the last one. Winter is studying similar subjects, but in autism population. So also trying to do veneers and eye tracking, and social cognition, like preference for social stimuli versus geometric stimuli in children. But, okay, jump this one.
Okay, it was my master. It's about bilingualism, bilingual children. And we divided bilingual children in two different groups. The first one is about second language at school, so they were learning English. It was the same school that Andrea, so that school that have 3 different languages. And the other group was what the 3 languages? Russian? No, the Japanese.
Japanese.
Yeah. So they were learning process, and was how is learning is explicit and conscious, the English. And the Portuguese, it was bilingual children raised bilingual for non-native people. So a mother who is a Brazilian and her husband is Brazilian too. So they decided to raise in a second language. So it's acquisition process, natural linguist. So is this two different groups? Catarina, could you please? Yeah. We have 4 different tasks. 2 tasks is about cognition. So the 2 is the middle. This have A and L. Yes, thank you. It's a simul task adapted for children. So the first one, the children had to. It has frog and butterfly. So when they see frog, they had to press L and butterfly A. This one is the first step, and the second step, yes, actually most difficult, because the heart, when we have heart in the left, they had to press A because it's in the left, and right L, and the flower the opposite. When the flower goes the right, they have to remember and press the one A. I used it to try to do when they were trying, and I was off. But the children was amazing on this one. So we had this cognition tests and the language test. Sorry, the first one is switch naming. So when it was 100 trials, one per second, and then when it was yellow, they had to say the number in English, so 8, and when was it's blue, they had to say exactly in Portuguese, blue in Portuguese. And the last one, and this one about numbers, they had 2 different sessions. The first one, 60% was in English, and the second one, 6% was in Portuguese. And the last one is the litmus main. Is it's a task about language, so they had to tell a story in English or in Portuguese. They chose the first one because it was 2 different sessions. So some children said, "Oh, I want just English first." Okay, no problem. Go ahead. So please just tell the story. You can choose the language. And it was 4 different stories. It was aleatory, so they chose the stories. It was the dog, the cat, bird, and goats, and just pictures, 6 different pictures. And then they said they had to tell the story in English. And the second session, we did the same story, but in other language. So we tried to collect the cross-linguistic influences too. And could you please go with the other one? Thank you. The data was really impressed, because when I started to collect the children from school, I thought that the cognition tasks, the simul tasks, they were extremely better, but it hasn't so many difference between the groups. But the second one, the second task, the most difficult, the flowers and hearts, the school was a little bit better than the acquisition group, the group 2. But the comparison about the language, they were really different. The house, the group 2 from acquisition, they were really better than the school group. So it was really interesting, this data, but they had a little bit better on cognition, but it was not different from the acquisition. So we were thinking about bilingualism and all this stuff. And but the second one, we had a great difference, but in the litmus main task. So the oral production, the complexity, we can see that the group 2 were really better than the group 1. And it was
the group, which one?
the green one is the group 2 and the blue one is the group 1. The home is the green. Green, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So it was online because we started to collect on pandemic. And the people from the acquisition were from different places in Brazil. So we had different social realities in the group 2 than the group 1 because they were that school. So it was really interesting about the language development. Yes. So that's it. I was trying
No,
to.
it's really interesting, and I have very close study, very close to yours. I was interested into not completely the same and not completely the same results, but I had strong interest into bilingualism and executive control, cognitive control, and I have, but I have a spelling task. When I asked children to spell words that could be common words, they were all French and English. Common words or not. Of course, when the words were common, they were not identical coordinates. There were some spelling differences just in order to have some difficulties. For example, carrot, which is carotte in French, but you have to spell only one R and double T. Well, it's the reverse with So they saw a picture and they had to spell the word, but around in French language and around there were a lot of English words, and we asked them to name the word in English language. So we just wanted the kids to be completely confused with just in order to to examine the language control. Yes, and we had a lot of populations just like you, because we had a bilingual, native bilingual, living in bilingual families, and academic bilingual, having an immersion program, speaking French at school. And we also had a trilingual population. A master student collected data in Kuwait, where they speak in Arabic, French, and English. And I was interested in integrants and the role of cognitive control in this.
This was a no. Sorry.
No, and the fact was that at the end there were not so many integrants. We are a bit disappointed. A very good control for language, very good. We are a bit disappointed because they knew, even we are surrounded with English words, they spelled one R for carrot and two T for carrot.
Or you're expecting the interferences.
I was,
and I hadn't so many interferences.
Not so many. But interestingly, when they were, it was higher in the bilingual group as compared to the immersion group. So the immersion with academic, they strongly control for spelling skills. But when you are bilingual is at home, when you can speak, there are not so many control. That was a bit, but it's very small tendency. At the end, I had not so much interest.
Yes, I would like to hear in the slides, but we had no time, about the entropy theory, language theory. It's amazing, this theory.
That's really interesting, but it's not so, very close. That's a good one.
This work is supervised by my colleague, Maria Teresa. She's in Hong Kong. She does lots of L2 studies.
It's fascinating how kids can manage much better than. And that's the reason why we went to Kuwait, because in Kuwait, French and English were second and third language. erratic with first language. So we said, okay, we have no interference response. Let's go to Kuwait and see some.
Try to find. It was really interesting because I was expecting a lot of interference and zero sometimes like 5 and please.
That's nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, finish.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think we have no survivors in, let's see, wow, we see.
Questions?
Guys, sorry for taking so long.
Oh, he's in the area.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
she's just listening. She sent me a message, she's just listening.
Good. So, we can finish the
Yeah, yeah.
online meeting. Thank
Okay,
you.
guys,
Thank you.
bye-bye. Thank you for being there.
Thank you.
And you're going to be